Good morning. My name is Scott Trulock. I'm the new Director of Sports Medicine here at Florida State, and excited to meet with you guys this morning and answer any questions you have.
What attracted you to this job at Florida State, given your experience in the NFL? Made you want to jump to college and have this job here specifically?
So obviously my experiences have been split. I've had some great opportunities. I've spent almost 20 years in the National Football League and almost a decade intercollegiate sports, so I've had some experiences in both. I grew up in Orlando, so I'm kind of from these parts. Very familiar with the school. Most of my family went to Florida State, so I spent a lot of time here growing up. So it's just an exciting opportunity this spring. Obviously, being contacted by David Coburn and Coach Norvell and the rest of the coaches, and it was really the vision they had of the sports medicine department and looking forward to the continued evolution of taking sports medicine and blending it more with the performance team. The focus being obviously the experience of the student athlete. And us, athletic trainers have always worked with physicians and strength coaches, but kind of taking that group with the nutritionist and the mental health, and how can we put that all together for the experience of the student athlete so they see a seamless transition, whether they're injured or, from our standpoint of just trying to build durability in athletes, ultimately the health and performance. So it was really hearing the vision of that goal and seeing where they wanted to go and how they wanted to put it together.
How big a part is the mental health aspect, especially in the last couple of years?
It's a huge part. If you were to ask me to look, in my years and almost 30 years of, if we look back at the points and what our focus was, say 10, 20 years ago, or, the concussion crisis. And it was an area where we really felt like we didn't have a means of managing it. And we've come a long way. And we've come a long way in managing that, or nutrition. Maybe 10 years ago, that was the edge. Whereas right now, I'd really say mental health is kind of the area where we see the biggest need in evolving our care. And we're doing that, obviously, both at the campus and in the athletics role, but that's a very big part of the integration into the total health and performance for the student athlete.
How do you go about getting a lay of the land when you get here? Is it talking to all the people that are involved in every component of this, or how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, clearly, obviously, and clearly there were some really key pieces already in place here. You guys know Coach Storms and the jobs that he does, so that was a critical part of being able to collaborate and work with him. And then even Josh Chapman, who was an athletic trainer here, we were fortunate to be able to keep him and move him up to head athletic trainer, and all the other athletic trainers that were already here. So for me, coming in, it's gauging their experiences in terms of where they were in that evolution, and then kind of continuing to build that and then take it to the next level of where we want to go.
Is there much difference working with professional athletes?
Sure. Obviously, just from an age standpoint, when you're dealing with intercollegiate athletes, you're raising kids. You're kind of finishing that job of raising individuals. So it's a lot of the basic personal care type things of helping them understand, that as an athlete, your body is your business. And so how important it is for you to invest your time and energy into your own personal care. I mean, we're a resource and we can provide that, so it's teaching them that. In the professional ranks, it's a little different. The challenge there is they have longer medical history, so it can be a little bit more complicated from that standpoint, whereas at this level it's a greater volume of athletes, and you're kind of starting more in the basics of teaching them personal health care.
Along the lines of mental health, what do you teach, I guess, to the athletes to kind of make them become more aware that they maybe want to talk to somebody or maybe work on some issues?
Yeah, the biggest thing is understanding that their experiences are normal. We all can think back up to what our perspective was when we were their age, and you think some of the things that you're going through, that you're the only one that has ever experienced that. So probably the first thing understanding is recognizing what their challenges and their stresses are, and helping them understand that, look, what you're going through is normal, but also that you can reach a higher level by getting help. We all need help. We all can utilize our resources to become better. So a lot of it's just educating them on what they're experiencing. There's a normal capacity to that, and then what your resources are and how to utilize them. We've clearly come a long way. I mean, again, 5-10 years ago, I think everybody would refrain from accepting that help, whereas now these kids recognize that they have resources, and we've done a better job of communicating that.
This is also a department of 20 something sports.
Mm-hmm.
How challenging is that to not just focus on football?
Sure, and my role obviously is going to be with all sports. Obviously, football's in the heart of training camp right now, so I'm very involved there. But obviously, my responsibility is kind of coordinating the rest of the athletic trainers. Like you said, 20 sports, 500 athletes. And so it's, taking that model and applying it to every sport. Every sport essentially has a performance team, the athletic trainer, the nutritionist, the physicians, the strength coaches, all working together and meeting every day to review the athletes and what the areas where we can improve. Because a lot of times when you have those type meetings, there's bits and pieces of information. Maybe the strength coaches saw something in the weight room that day, or maybe the nutritionist saw something in meeting with them, that we can all help. And by doing that, we can kind of work together. So that from their experiencing, they're seeing it all pulling in the same direction. But yeah, clearly it's about building this model with every team on campus.
Was there anything specific about Coach Wearable in the conversations about what they do?
Sure. Again, initially talking with David Cover and meeting Coach Norvell, what I'm sharing, that's the vision he had. And so for me, that's the vision I had. So seeing clearly what he wanted to put in place, and really when I first came to campus, I had the opportunity to meet with the majority of the coaches, and really from Coach Hamilton and Sue and Mark, and they all share that same vision. So it was just seeing where the department wanted to go and the opportunity to be a part of that moving forward.
There are some wearable technologies, watches and such.
Yeah.
Can you just maybe briefly describe kind of what you're using and what advantages you get out of that information?
Sure. The wearable technologies is a big frontier for us in sports right now, and there's a couple different ones. Obviously, football, we use the GPS tracking, and what that does is, Coach Storms and his staff compile that information, but we're able to see the type of loads or the stress on the player, how much ground they cover, how fast they're running. We've created indexes where you combine all that to determine a player load. Obviously, the faster you run, the more you change direction, the greater stress it is on your body. And so every day we look at that information and we compare where different athletes are, and we see an athlete and what its capacities are. From a medical perspective, we can really use that to see, is an athlete ascending or is he struggling with something? We can see in his loads if maybe there's something bothering him and kind of connect with him and figure out what might be affecting him. Likewise, when an athlete's coming back from an injury, obviously we want to progress him. We don't want him doing too much too soon. So we can set goals and loads, and we can literally monitor that in real time during practice to know what he's done and to make sure he progresses. Soccer uses Whoop. It's a different device that measures some different biometric indexes and respiration. So we glean more information from there. So with them, Elisa and their strength and conditioning coach, and Laura, the athletic trainer, they meet every day with Mark and review that information. So again, just some different examples, and the tools are different for different sports. You can kind of focus in on some different metrics. So that is a critical piece and a big frontier in the area of sports medicine and performance right now.
How challenging has it been with the last 18 months or 16 months of COVID and pandemic?
Yeah, obviously I went through it from the NFL perspective, which was a little bit different. It was a monumental challenge to try to put a season together and to make games happen. If you think back this time last year, we didn't know if games were going to be played, and that was really our moment, to say, okay, what can we do to help make this happen? And it was a monumental task at that level. And at college, I would say it was even greater, again, just from the volume of athletes that they had to manage, of trying to put protocols in place to keep everybody safe, to keep them healthy, and to put them on the field, especially at a time where, as you guys remember, the protocols were changing certainly by the week and by the day, and we just had to be adaptive to the recommendations and follow what the science was telling us. And clearly, as I said, I don't know that this year's going to be harder than last year, but it may be more complicated because now with the vaccine, there's differentiation for different groups and how we're going to manage them. So for us, for all of us, the challenge remains. It's going to be different, but we still have challenges to face, and students aren't back on campus yet, so we know what we might have to manage there. So.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.